council meeting on November 10th, 2014 to order at 7 p.m. Everyone please rise for the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, call roll, please.
Stirrett.
Here.
Clark.
Here.
Conan.
Here.
Bullock.
Here.
Baylor.
Here.
Cooper.
Here.
Audie.
Here.
Everyone has the agenda in front of them tonight. Is there anything anyone would like to pull, or is there a motion at this time?
Madam President, I'd like to pull new business B.
Okay, construction engineering proposal from Row Inc. for the Prospect Street Bridge project. We will
Correct.
pull that.
We pull that and put it on the next one.
Okay. Is there anything anyone else would like to pull, or is there a motion at this time?
Madam President, I'll move that the agenda be approved as amended.
Motion by Mr. Ballard. Is there a second? Support by Mr. Wolock. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried. Any citizen comment on non-agenda items? Any citizen comment? Hearing none, we are now under presentations. The Armada Fire Department is here to give us a presentation. Chief Krzyzewski and Mr. Bobstein.
Tom, I'll let you go ahead and show the presentation. As he's setting up, I want to thank the Village Council for being so supportive on us and purchasing these Lucas machines. They're going to be very valuable to us and our citizens of Armada Village and Township. Also, I want to thank everybody for the support that you gave us throughout our village. Mr. Wolock for putting the sign out on your property. I very appreciated that. We do as a whole as a department. We also have fire smoke detectors at the station. They were given out to families. If anybody needs them, or families that you know in the village or township, please let us know. One per family. We have 2 or 3 dozen to give away, and that's through a restoration company. So, Tom, I will turn it over to you.
Again, thank you for supporting us and getting us the money and getting these. This is one of the machines that we purchased. We got the other one in the station, the other truck. This is the Lucas 2. This is the newest one. It's battery operated, and it's got a 45-minute battery on it to allow us to do what we need to do on scene and still be able to get to the hospital. We do have a secondary battery in the bag in case we do have extended scene times. This is the size of it. It does only fit certain sizes. Over size people that are not going to fit in this, or if they're too small, children, they don't fit in this. Usually about 8 and up is the age range. I got this guy patted because he's a little thin. The first thing is simple to deploy. Comes in a bag, which is back there. It's got a yellow bracket on the bottom and the top piece. You connect it in. Once it's connected in, you gotta line them up, and it's easy as turning it on. Adjust it down until it touches, and hit go. And this does exact CPR, high quality, and it frees up manpower and all our resources to do everything. It's as quick as easy as that.
Have you had to use it yet?
We haven't used it yet. We've had them in for a week. Yeah, about a week. We have not used it yet.
You're training everybody on those?
We are going to do training tomorrow. Everyone will be trained.
Why these are so important is when you have CPR, usually you're taking 3 in the back and 1 driver. It's 4 out of the township or the village. Now we can cut that in half. CPR, when you start CPR, you cannot finish until we get to the hospital. So that's definitely wears you out. By using this machine, we'll cut back on our manpower and reduce the stress with the guys in the back. Also, you guys do know that for any direction we go, whether we go north or we go south, we're a half hour each way to the hospital. So it's very important to have some state-of-the-art equipment like this. And number 2, we are the only other department in Macomb County, thanks to the village, to have these. Roseville has 2, now we have 2. So again, it's a big step, and you guys should be very proud of getting this for us. We're very, very proud ourselves. It was brought up at our last chiefs meetings I went to. Some of the big departments can't get them or can't afford them. We do. So I feel real happy we do as a department to have these.
And besides the half-hour transport, our protocols is 30 minutes on scene to work. So you got an hour into that.
Wow.
And AHA for CPR recognizes that you switch out every 2 minutes with a lot of people.
Oh, wow.
I don't switch out with it, so it frees up a lot of hands, a lot of people, and allows us to work on a patient otherwise, and save the resources going to the hospital. And the life-saving capabilities of this is astronomical. I mean, even in the DVD that we're doing training on, it shows that 30% of people walking out of the hospital from 6%, just with use of this. And 80% of them are being admitted in there. 30% are only walking out, but that's a huge difference from the 6%.
Oh, that's awesome.
How many ambulances do you have?
We got 3.
3, so you have 2.
We got 2 on the 2 primary, and then we got a 3rd backup truck, just in case we get hit,
Okay.
which goes off with that.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, our goal is to purchase a 3rd one for 3 trucks.
Okay.
Because again, we do cover Berlin Township, parts of Berlin, and parts of Richmond. So if we're way out in the north end, and that's already 1 truck out the Lucas machine, we have 1 more. And we've had in the past, one time that I remember being at Sunson's department, 2 CPRs going at one time.
Yes, we have.
One in McFadden and one, I believe, in the village, but it can happen. And especially if we go on a mutual aid. If we were to go on a mutual aid in Washington or Bruce, Sam and I are come back from the hospital or something, we have 1 truck out of service with Lucas machine. So that's our goal, eventually to have 3 and all 3 trucks.
And it fits on the truck at all times?
Yeah,
You
it-
don't
it's-
have to just put it
It's in the cabinet, all locked up and safe.
Okay. Good.
It's amazing.
Any
Great.
questions on it?
How new is the technology? I mean, this
Well, they've
last couple of years,
this one's over the last about 2 years. They had a Lucas one, which is pneumatic. It's air powered. You got to hook up a line to it. Had an air bottle. It's a little bit cumbersome. This one's all battery powered, just buttons, and you're going. They used to have ones back. I don't know, when they first came out, probably 10, 15 years ago. The batteries lasted about 5 minutes. So they weren't that good.
Right.
So they come a long ways. 45 minutes on this. It's a lithium-ion battery, and it'll get us to the hospital. Plus we got a spare one.
depending on the size of the patient. I mean, when I saw you push that down, I mean, if the patient
Yeah,
was up here or
They-
further
they-
down, once it knows that,
Yeah, it'll tell you if it's too far down. I'll show you.
okay.
Then it's too far outside. So if that person is smaller, that is not gonna work. You gotta, it's about the distance.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it won't be 2 inches of
Travel.
travel to do the compression. So it tells you all that, and then they gotta be able to fit in here, which you squeeze somebody in there
Mhm.
until they get too big.
Mhm.
Now, when you do it manually, you sometimes run the risk of breaking the ribs, right? Cracking the ribs.
You're probably gonna end up doing CPR manually to begin with because somebody's gonna be doing CPR before we get there. So you're still gonna have the separation of the sternum, probably some broken ribs, but this will limit the amount over time. When we do CPR for a half an hour, the chests are busted up bad. This will save a lot of that.
If you're not breaking ribs, you're not doing CPR right.
It gives the flexion of the chest.
And it also is pretty consistent in the compressions
That's
too. I mean, a human.
Human's not gonna do the
so
same
much.
compressions,
Right.
the same
Especially if you've
for
been
half
doing
an
it
hour.
for 10 minutes. Yeah.
You're gonna vary in depth. You
Right.
can't hit that. This is gonna be exact.
That's perfect.
Absolutely, as the ambulance is rocking back and forth, you're losing, if you're doing it manually with this, you're not.
And that's why they took us from rocking and rolling on everyone to doing 30 minutes on scene, because the CPR on the scene is gonna be the best CPR that we can do. Going down the road, getting thrown around, going around corners, the roads in Michigan aren't that great. They recognize that the CPR that we do in the back of the truck is not high quality at all. So this going down the road, it doesn't matter. The other capabilities of this, it's bringing, when we do compressions, we're fluctuating, we're not getting that pulse pressure. This thing is bringing the pulse pressure, normal pulse pressure, about 15 milligrams per mercury, and this is going to keep it there. So the capabilities of being able to maintain that there, this does it, we can't. It's a proven fact.
Do they make some for bigger guys?
It'll fit you, it'll fit everyone in this room.
Oh, this one?
It'll
Oh,
fit
okay.
everyone in this room.
I just didn't know if I'd be able
No, you-
to. Will they make bigger sizes eventually?
I don't know, I don't know if they're in the engineering of that, but, everyone in this room will fit this.
Okay.
Wow, I don't think your buddy's too friendly to you over there.
No, he's not right. We'll wait till he gets to the middle seat.
And that doesn't mean that on the obese patients that we have in the Mildred Township, wherever we go, there will be times we're gonna have to do manual CPR all the way down. That's just
Right.
the way it is.
Right.
You know, with the technology, this is what they developed right now. Heck, in 5 years, we might even be back in the ambulances, there might be robots back in our start IVs, who knows what the technology they have. But
We can find it.
Well, yeah, we won't
What's
have
the
a half an hour
difference
problem.
between a defibrillator and the
Then this,
Lucas? Yeah.
this does the compressions. The defibrillator delivers the energy trying to stimulate that heart to beat again.
That's the
Yeah,
shock.
and
This is just for CPR.
this does the compressions, which is very important because you want to get that 15 milligrams of mercury back of pulse pressure to get the brain perfused and the heart perfused. If that's not there, they're still starving. This is going to get that to there, and then we excite the heart with drugs and so forth, or if the heart's already in that rhythm, we can shock them and get it back. That's the AED does the electricity.
What was the price of one of these?
Shell, do you remember 17?
17, I
Yeah.
think.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're costly, but
It saves a
I
life.
save a life.
No,
You save one, it's worth it.
Yeah.
So I've used these over at another place where I've worked, and about 90% of people would get pulses back.
It's amazing.
And
So you, with the Black Grant funds, you bought 2 of those and the stair chair
we
too?
got a stair chair, 2 sked boards, a Stokes basket, and an AED.
The stair chair is a regular chair, but what's different about it, it has tracks in the back, like a army tank. So taking people from the upstairs down, instead of carrying them down, bigger people, you use the track and slide them down. It makes it a lot easier for getting people out of tight areas.
Saves your back.
We
That's
saw
the first thing
when
that
we-
goes in this.
Dave and Harry and I went one day when they were demonstrating, and
We don't have
the
that.
old one they had was just a chair.
It
You know, I
was
mean,
a
so when
chair,
they were
but-
carrying somebody, it was full weight on that chair. And when,
He has it, we'll show you real quick.
Okay.
This thing is really.
yeah, I mean,
I like it.
it's pretty awesome.
And the paddles, Michael, they don't use paddles anymore. It's all stickers now. It's just half the size of that paper. They put one on the front, one on the back with wires off it. And then the machine ties it, so there's no more like Rescue 51 that you. It's all,
Like the ones say at the elementary school, like as an example.
they're all stickers.
They're all stickers.
Everything's stickers now, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
So this is just like a regular chair, but when we go down the stairs, this goes back and then just kicks down. All we gotta do is hold on to it, we don't have to carry the weight. So it
Yeah,
saves
the
our
other one
back.
just looked like a chair with.
The other one's just a chair and you got handles, you
Yeah,
gotta carry the weight
handles.
all the way down.
Yeah.
So you got the risk of fall, injury to us or the patient, this takes it away.
Do we have one on each truck again
Yep.
with this?
We have 3 now. Yep.
Good.
3 of those now.
Does it handle telescope so you don't have
This,
to be that close to
yeah,
the
this does come
patient?
out. This will come out over here. The other also straps secure the head in, body in, and legs in so they don't move.
That's
If they're
nice.
unconscious or so forth.
So it'd be better for you if we had a problem to do it downstairs, right?
They get them outside, going on outside the stairs, and any stairs is dangerous, especially when you got 200, 300 pound person.
Well, some people here in the village, they live on the 3rd story, and you got this kind of staircase, you know, it's very helpful. They're not flipping and flopping over or nothing, that we can secure them in a chair, so.
Years ago, I had an ambulance ride, and I was in a back room of my house, and my doors, because it's an old house, are thin. So they put me on the stretcher to get me out. It was like they didn't really know how to do it. They kind of had to do this to get me out my back door. But, you know, it was fine. Everything was great. But no, they're perfect with it. But it just, I mean, something like that is phenomenal. So,
And it helps in tight places where we can't get the cot.
yeah, that, well, and
Just
a
to
lot
get
of
out.
our old houses in town have that. So,
Perfect. Thank you.
No,
Again,
thank you.
thanks.
Thank you
Appreciate it.
for everything you guys have done.
Mhm.
Any questions? Or good?
No. Thank you so much for showing us.
No problem.
Got it. Okay, we'll move on.
yeah.
Everyone has their administrative reports. Everyone sees the building department report. Are there any commissioner liaison reports at this time?
Madam President, I think I threw one in here real quick. I sent it to Michelle. It was just a tentative schedule for the S2 grant process. It came from Mike Park, who's took over from Keith at Giffords Webster on the S2 grant. One problem is we've already missed the first deadline of them responding to me, which more than likely then they won't be able to collect everything and get it to me in 3 days. So I'm not saying that the intent was to hold them to its exact, but it gave us something to go by because we had no clue what was happening. So this is a good little starting point on when things should be approximate. Okay? That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
You have your building reports in there too.
Madam President, just to inform the council, the scrap
Thank you
tire,
again.
Thank you
Good night.
See ya.
the scrap tire grant is in process with road engineering. I got an email from Michael Marshall for the fiscal year 2015 market development grant application, and that's our scrap tire grant. It says this email is to inform you that your letter of interest submitted to the scrap tire market development grant program has been accepted, and you are hereby invited to submit a full application. And I sent it on to Roll, and I talked with Doug tonight, and Doug Skylas tonight, and he said that is being processed as we speak. So,
Perfect. The timeline is, are you still looking at doing what area?
Burke Street.
Burke Street. Okay, perfect. Any other commissioner liaison reports at this time? Hearing none, we will move on to the consent agenda. It's the approval of the regular council meeting minutes of October 27, 2014, and the payment of bills. Is there anything anyone would like to pull, or is there a motion at this time?
President, I'll move the consent agenda be accepted as presented.
Motion by Mr. Ballard. Is there a second? Support by Mr. Wallach. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. I abstain on the minutes, please. We have no old business tonight. We will now go into new business. The first item is the park budget. Are there any public comments? Any public? Yes, it's you.
Okay. I wanted to come and talk about the budget because the meeting about a month ago, I don't remember the date of that. There was a discussion about the money coming out of the parks budget, the $3,300, and $2,300 of that is sponsorship money that Tim and I raised this year. Some of it might be from the year before. And it became clear at that time that not everybody was aware of what we've been doing in the park. So Sherry asked if I could come in and just sort of give a recap. So that's what I'm prepared to do tonight. I started doing this in 2007 when my husband was the Parks Commissioner. At that time he lobbied for and got a big budget, and we did a lot of improvements to the park. The pavilion went up in 2008. We cleaned up the pump house, we put new windows in, we painted everything. Took out all the junk trees. I mean, we put in that little fence, and over the years, the first year the pavilion was up, there was some criticism that you shouldn't spend money on the park because the park was dead. So we said, well, no, we're just going to make sure that there's programs in the park. So I was kind of new to town. I asked Deb Smith if she knew some people who might want to play in the park, and she said sure. So we lined up. The first year everybody played for free. The second year, the council budgeted $200 a concert. It was set at that. And they've been sponsoring $200 since then, which is great. I usually set the calendar, and what I do is the first week after school gets out to the week before the fair, based on my experience that you can't have a concert after the fair, nobody comes. I didn't know that because I was kind of new in town. Yeah, for the next couple of years I worked by myself. At the park. I set up the Uncle Sam Jam, which is the potluck in the park, because I wanted some sort of event for the community to come together to do something for the holiday. And with it being in the middle of the week, and wherever the holiday falls, we can either start a day early or use your one last chance to celebrate, or whatever. There's always a reason. It's caught on now. This was the 5th year this year, and I heard a lot of people say that it was, oh, I don't start my holiday until I know I can come to the. That's great. That's what I wanted. That's sort of a, something to do in the park every year. There were requests made after my husband left and the new commissioners. The park has a problem with vandalism, And I wanted, the little decorative things were getting broken and there was no money to repair and replace them. So, and I'd asked a couple of times and I stopped asking. I decided that maybe if we can't repair it, then we just need to stop the vandalism. And that's when I thought, well, if we could raise some money, we could help out by doing that. We could maybe get some cameras or something. I talked to the chief about that and whether that's a good idea. And, you know, I thought that we'd only have to prosecute a couple people and it would stop. It would stop, and then my park wouldn't be abused all the time. It's a wonderful place. It's a great, people really come to, it's a part of life now in town, you know, in a matter of 7 or 8 years. And by 2011, I was getting kind of tired of doing a lot of this by myself, and Tim Cheek, most of you guys know him by now, he lives up in the township. He'd recently retired, and he noticed that I was getting kind of tired, and he offered to help me. So, okay, great. 2012, we worked together. 2013, we got to talking about, well, geez, if we wanted, you know, that more of the decorative things were gone and the pump house windows are broken and the door's all jimmied and the lock is, you can't even get in it anymore. And gee, you know, 2 things of the fence are gone now and, you know, it just doesn't get fixed or anything. Everything needs painting again. It's like, okay. So we met with Harry early in the year. In 2013, and we talked about what we could do and what kind of prices we should set and what would we offer them for their money and on and on. Okay, Harry thought it was a great idea. Tim took on the role of being the sponsorship manager. I was going to do the music part of it because that's what I had been doing. And we talked to Jo. We collected some money at first, and she said, "No, you can't keep it. You have to turn it in," which we were a little leery of doing because what happens if people, you know, I mean, you're all elected, you might not, you decide not to run or whatever. If you're not here, then what happens to the money that we work for? And she said she'd create a line item for it and that it would be protected. And I talked to her and Tim talked to her and to Harry both years. Do we need anything in writing? Is this good enough? This is good enough. It's protected. This is the right way to do it. It's protected. Okay, fine. So we went on. What we told our people is that it was for park programs or improvements, that it was going to be based on what we thought we needed, and it was, since there was a down economy, we were going to try and help the village fill in some cracks that maybe the budget wasn't going to allow, so that we don't run the risk of not being funded next year. We'll do what we can to help, right? And we were told, as long as we went through the proper channels, like don't just go out and buy cameras and put them up, or don't just give the money to Howard and to have him, you know, you got to do your research, get your prices, come to council, get approval, all that there shouldn't really be any issue in it. We were fully prepared to do that. So this year, when it was like the money was going to go for park benches that were going to go uptown, it's like, that's not the understanding and the agreement that I had. We talked to 2 board members 2 years in a row, and that was the promise that was made. So we had even talked at one point about making Friends of the Park, creating a nonprofit for Friends of the Park and putting the money in there. And then it's like, well, but wait a minute, I'm a volunteer. I do this because I want this activity in my community. I don't want to run a nonprofit organization. I have enough to do being a volunteer, right? I mean, it's just too much. So what I really just wanted was to have the park be used. It had never been used before, and to create a place where people could gather and to just enjoy with people. So I was upset when I heard that the money was going to be taken for benches, because that's not the promise that I made to our sponsors. Based on conversations that I had with 2 board members over 2 different years, that I don't think, I would have to go back, if that happens, I feel a sense of responsibility that I need to go back to my people that gave money and say, well, wait a minute, I wasn't able to provide what I promised you because the money went into the general fund and now it's gone.
What did you promise?
I promised that it would be used for park improvements and or programs based on what Tim and I decided was needed. We talked to the chief about cameras a couple different times, and I thought we had enough this year to actually go back to him until he got busy with other things. And
How much did you collect this year, Sam?
There's $2,300 right now.
And that's been over the last 2 years, right?
Right, not all of it is this year, and I don't.
And then the last 2 years, how much did the programs cost, Terry?
About $4,000, $4,500.
For 2 years.
For 2 years. Plus, did we do anything else in the park? I know we're getting a sign.
We did the fence, but,
Fix the sign.
and fix the sign with it, yeah.
But I understand what you're saying there. But you can't collect money and say, this is how it's got to be, you know?
I just want to make the
Yeah.
point that that was the process that we used based on my conversations with board members at the
Yeah,
time.
I said that was okay.
If we need to
This
adjust
has got to
that,
come a little more to the council though, because sounds like there's promises being made that other people don't know about,
And we can't have that.
you know?
My conversation with Joe back in 2013 was I thought there was a savings account set up that it was going into. That's what I was told.
No.
And that's why I asked Sam to come here
But you
and bring out
can't
the rest of
earmark money.
council to up to speed, because I didn't understand, I saw it as a line item, which I thought was our general fund. I didn't know anything about the sponsorships. So I wanted the rest of council to know as well, because then I had a meeting with Tim and Sam, and they brought me up to speed on it, and I said, well, we really need to bring this to council so everyone is on the same page about it.
That makes sense.
So that's why I
right,
asked Sam to come.
and if we need to adjust the process, fine, but I don't think it's fair to take the money when we thought we had a perfectly good process. We talked to board people every year, and we're told separately and together, always told the same thing, that this was fine.
Well, I mean, theoretically, what you collected went for the programs. You know,
Dave, I'd like to ask you to remember back to the DDA, when the DDA became in financial straits, and we said that all of their money would go to paying off the bonds,
that's exactly right.
and they argued that they had collected money for Armada-geddon.
All I'm saying
And we
is-
said, yes, they could use that money that they collected for Armada-geddon to seed money for their next year. So we have in the past let people earmark money that they collected themselves.
And I don't have a problem with that. Although it's got to be clear to the council that that's happening. But also, what I'm saying is, because there is not this line item, the general fund paid for those benches.
Right,
And that didn't necessarily come out of any one pocket, but the general
the
fund
general
pocket.
fund, yes.
So that nobody took your money, that 2,300 you had, and said, here, there's 2,300 of that bench money. That did not happen.
That has not happened, but that
Right.
is what council said at that one meeting,
You know.
that they wanted to
But
have.
I'm just saying, that
Because
did
we
not
didn't
happen.
know what.
And I gotta contradict you on that. Several months ago, when I asked for compensation for the volunteers at the park, and I listed everything that they do, right down to the sponsorship and all the money they've collected and the good things that they've done, you should have been well aware then.
No, that was not transparent.
Yeah.
And I
That
can
was
go back
not
to April
transparent.
2014, it's in the minutes, I believe, under park commissioner reports that we'd be doing sponsorships for the upcoming year.
I understand that when you say sponsorships, but when you
Yeah.
are telling a resident that their money is gonna be set aside for a specific purpose and
Sounds
not
like you're
telling
making
the rest
promises.
of council,
I've never
that's not
made that promise,
transparent.
but
That's
But-
not transparent.
Yeah, and I think your questions are totally fair, and I totally agree with you. If you're soliciting money from somebody to be used in a certain way, but we gotta make sure we're in agreement to you soliciting that money to be used that way. But if we tell somebody that's how we're gonna use it, I mean, I thought the money was going towards the park programs, and I was very happy about that. Because we all know the majority of the people who come to those concerts don't necessarily live in the town. There's a lot of people coming from outside of town, which is fine. I love to see anybody that wants to come. But I thought it was nice that we had some participation on that paying, the $200 each week.
I thought it was nice that the community was so quick to respond to our request for sponsorship, because it shows that it's clearly valuable
Right.
to them. It's valuable to them. It puts me in a difficult spot, because how am I gonna get any sponsors this year when the money is gonna go, when the money went to the general fund? And I don't, right? I mean, some of these people live and work in the village. They're already donating plenty to the general fund. If they're gonna give me money, $300 or $400, whatever it is, and I'm gonna tell them, this is what I hope to do with it, I'll keep you posted, and then it goes into the general fund, I'm not gonna get any more
And well, we
sponsors.
better make sure that don't happen. You got a good point.
And
there.
that's why I asked you to come
And
here
it,
and
and
talk.
it damages my credibility. I did this because I had talked to council people and they told me that this was the way I could do this. So I did that. And now you're telling me it's not, you make me look foolish. I'm sorry, but that's not acceptable. I did what I did based on having gone through the proper steps and talked to the people and now that's not right.
Well, like I said, I just wanted you to come talk to the rest of council, because I know I didn't understand. And I
No,
wanted to make sure
I
that the
didn't
rest of
either.
council was on the same page. That's why I asked
And I
you
don't
to
know
come.
who told you had a private fund set up for you.
Harry and Joe both told me that that was the right way to do things.
That it
We
has
asked,
to come into the village funds
yep.
and
that
that
it would be
money was
protected.
earmarked.
Yes.
Mr. Bohorski has
I've told
something
them
he wants
it's
to say.
earmarked too.
You're not the first municipality that's struggled with this, and I'm sure Howard, in his career, I mean, a lot of times people come forward and they say, I want to help out my fire department, I want to help out my police department. And when they do that, it's very, very important that it comes to the municipality, the board, and they accept that donation. That's what's known as a restricted donation. In other words, they aren't going to give the money unless they can control where it goes. And the trade-off is, that if the village wishes to accept it, it comes with that.
That's what it did with that.
That's right.
Right, so I just want to make sure,
Right.
like I said, this is not the first community that's struggled with this. The other thing that I want to distinguish is people are saying sponsorship and donation, two completely different things. And I think we have to clean up our language. Sponsorships means I'm running this event, I'm going to promote, you're going to be part of this event, and I'm going to promote you, and you're going to get to hang a sign up. That's a sponsorship.
That's
Okay.
That's what we do.
That's not a donation. A donation is where someone comes to the village and says, I want to support Parks and Rec. I love music in the park. I would like to donate to that. And oh, by the way, I want it restricted to that use. If this council makes a motion to accept the donation, thank the person, then you are obligated to put it in the special fund. That you don't have a choice. That's the restriction that comes with the donation. Sponsorships, again, are a little different, and I think, Sam, if you go out, or Harry, or whoever does it, if you're selling that, you're giving them something, there's a quid pro quo. That's not a donation.
Right.
Donations are, in many cases, tax deductible, and sponsorships aren't. You're getting something. You're saying, I'm attaching my name to this program. And yes, you can use the money for it, but I think it's a more difficult proposition to say, that goes in a restricted fund, because the discussion with a potential sponsor is different than a discussion with a potential donor. Sponsor says, I want my name on a banner, I want to be associated with this event, and I think you don't have the ability then to restrict it. If they want to donate and say, I'm supporting music in the park, then council can say, sure, I get it, I know what you're asking for. It makes it much easier for Joe to then restrict those to a dedicated use. Does that make sense?
Well, they have the banners up there. I thought those advertising banners were sponsorships to help pay the cost of the band.
That's what I thought too.
That's what I thought that was. I'm sorry if I'm wrong. That's what I thought the money was for.
I just think going forward, you have to be careful what.
I don't even recall seeing a list of donors.
Well, it's not donors, they're
Or a list of
sponsors.
sponsors. I did see the banners. I don't know how much anyone give,
Right,
but I thought that was to offset the cost of the concerts.
and that's a logical, when you say sponsorship, that's a logical assumption to make, David. I just want to make clear that there is a difference, and when you go forward, you've got to think about this. Are we creating a sponsorship, which the natural inclination is say, they're donating that, they're going to get a chance to promote, and this happens at a lot of municipal events, that run throughout the year. They are looking to have their name advertised. They're donating it. But most of the time, those sponsorship funds are to offset the event. It's really you're trying to gather funds to offset that event. Like I said, that's quite a bit different
than a donation, where someone says, I would like to donate to Parks and Rec, or I'd like, to donate to the police department. I want to make sure that my funds are used for that. That's really two different things. So I don't think you can necessarily restrict a sponsorship in the same way you can a donation. You just need to resolve, when you approach these people to sponsor it, what are they getting? They're obviously getting the ability to associate their name with the event. They get to put up their banner. But in terms of what those funds are used for, I think going into next year, you have to have the discussion before you go out and solicit sponsorships.
So if Sam were to continue, or Sam and Tim were to continue with the sponsorships, and say they got, what I don't know what your sponsorships are, $200 a piece, whatever, and it's $2,000 for the program. If they got 10 that year, that could pay for the bands, but would that maybe allow us at budget time to have still $2,000 that we would normally put to the bands to go for park improvements?
It could or couldn't be,
in a
you're
normal-
still in a negative budget.
In the normal
Well, and that's a budget discussion, but
Well, in the normal sense
I wanna-
that you say sponsorship, you are soliciting sponsors because you're trying to offset your cost of that event. You see what I mean?
of the event, not
Right.
of.
Now, when
where-
you talk about a donation, to me, a donation would be someone saying, I want to donate to this, but I want to restrict it to parks programs, parks events. That's different. They're not expecting to have their name on a banner.
Even though that's the way they sold it, was they said that this is going to go for park improvements, not necessarily for.
Well, that's fine, that's okay to say that,
Yeah.
but when the money comes in the door, it's not restricted.
Okay.
This council
Okay,
can do
all right.
with it as they see fit. Now, I'm not saying they should.
Yeah, we
I
don't
think
want
you
to
have
do
to have,
anything that's
No.
not
Right.
fair.
No,
but you need to,
absolutely not.
but to your point, Michelle, you need to say, what most people do is they say, okay, look, what does it cost to run this event? Well, it's gonna cost me, we're budgeting for this year $4,000 for music in the park. Then you budget what you
wish.
reasonably think you're gonna get in sponsorships. Okay, what's our budget for sponsorships? Now, you may not get there, but you gotta factor in, we're gonna have, let's say, 1,500 in donations. Well, that's your revenue side of it.
Right.
So then what's the difference between 4,000 and 1,500?
Right.
That's what you have to come up with as a village. It is a budget discussion, okay? So if you approach it that way, I think it's a much cleaner discussion. You say, look, we are gonna fall short $2,500. As a council, are we willing to step up and fill that gap? If there is a gap, there may not be. Hopefully Sam spells the sponsorships and you cover everything. But
She's
I
done a
don't,
great
I
job.
think in terms of those events, you have to look at it as a sponsorship, and you really want to offset the cost of the program. That's the way you should approach it from a budgeting
But
perspective.
you're certainly correct in that you don't want to hear that money you collected is used outside of the park.
Well, Sam, is one of your bigger concerns, you started out with saying that, that you were upset that some of the benches went downtown. I mean, would you consider the benches that went into the park improvements?
Yes.
Yeah.
But we pulled some of the other bench money, or Joe did, from general fund, or from outside of the parks fund because they were going downtown. That would logically fall under local street.
But I think the village has kind of taken the stance that the park oversaw the gardens, and that's why you're in charge of the gardens, the bike racks. It's not just the village
The park.
memorial park, it's the park in whole is various. There's also the Dorothy Moss Park that we talked about years ago.
Again, if you collect
You know,
money.
Sorry, so it's not just the one park. Parks encompasses many items. In theory, it's supposed to. While we might interpret the benches in downtown as being park, obviously some people, even on council, don't think so. And that's where we were at a stalemate a month ago.
But if you're saying that the bump outs downtown should be part of parks, okay, gardening, that kind of thing. There's not a single park bench in a bump out. They're on the sidewalks.
Street department may take care of those bump outs.
Well, we're just getting a little far, because we're right now talking about park
It's not a
budget.
park
So
bench
let's just
stand
bring
that's
this
sitting
back
on the
around.
road.
Sam,
Even
when you
if-
sell
it's
the
gotta be
sponsorship,
somewhere.
what is included with the sponsorship?
We had $300, you got the big banner, and it goes up, it's there all summer. And at every concert I announce who our sponsors are and say a little, you know, I do this little funky little spiel thing. You know, I'm not, yeah, I am
You're
what I
doing
am.
a great job.
And then we left it up while the fair was going. We didn't take them down until after the fair, so whatever traffic they got there.
And then where did the money come to buy those banners?
It
Did
came
they?
out of the sponsorship.
It came out of sponsorship. Okay, so the
Yeah,
general
after
fund
we
didn't
paid
pay for
our
those.
Did that go through Joe, or did you
Yeah.
just handle it?
It was on the schedule of bills.
Okay.
It went through you.
Okay.
Right? I don't,
Right.
Tim did it.
Good.
I don't,
Yeah.
Joe, did we have a line item for sponsorship revenue?
I believe we do.
Okay, so that, I mean, that's the discussion you have to have at budget time, is what are we gonna have? You really can't talk about buying other things with it until you get more sponsorships than you have costs.
I have a question, Jeff, I guess this would be for you. Let's say that we set our budget at $4,000.
Mhm.
Let's say that Sam goes out and she gets $6,000. I mean, great, it's wonderful, okay? Then what do we do with the other $2,000? Do we just leave it in there?
Well,
And
that's
say-
when you basically, yeah, you.
That's when we get with Sam and Harry
Well-
and that and say, okay, we got an extra
First,
2,000.
Or maybe you can't oversell it. You know, you can,
Well, I mean, I'm
you
looking
only
at
can
that.
handle so
Yeah,
much money,
right.
you can't take your.
The surplus
I've
is
had
really.
people calling me in the winter, how do
Yeah.
I get my banner on that
Exactly.
fence
Yeah.
next year?
I think to answer that, Lyle, is really what you have to do is, again, in the context of the budget, you say, look, we had more come in, we had a great year, and then, as with any budget, you're looking, you're saying, okay, I've got $2,000 more than I thought I would do. The council then has to decide, how do you carry that forward? Do you have it? But it's a pleasant problem to have, but it's a budget issue. And again, I just want to be clear, it's not restricted. You aren't going to be able to restrict that, it's part of your budget.
Could we, well, you say you can't restrict it, could we restrict that it is carried forward in language?
That's
We'll have
probably
a
a Joe
prior
question.
fund.
Yeah, you could have a prior, you can
But I
carry it
think
forward.
we're losing the scope of what Sam and Tim tried to do. We have a budget. We give the park a budget every year.
No.
That takes care of the programs, which keeps the park viable. It gets people into the park. Nothing ever, and I've lived here since dirt was created, has ever brought that kind of people into the park and utilization of the park.
I agree.
It's a great program. I would hate to see it lost because we're arguing about budget. We have,
We're not
since it's-
arguing about
Yeah,
that
no one's arguing
program.
about
we're discussing budget right into what she did, and it's two separate things. What Sam and Tim did was they went over and above. They went outside what we normally take care of in the budget and decided that there was things that the budget wasn't covering that needed repair, that needed attention, that needed to be installed. And now you're saying that, well, if she collects all this money, we'll subsidize the budget first, and if there's anything left over, you can have it.
No,
That's
no
not
one-
the intent of
no
what
one
they
said
did.
that. No one said you have to do it. I'm simply saying you have to.
That's what Lyle's scenario just was.
But no, you have to account for the money. You're bringing in sponsorship
Bringing
money.
it in.
That's why I asked you, do you have a line item? Joe, if you have a
I do.
line item and you bring in $4,000 in sponsorship, you have to account for it. You have to decide in the budget what you're gonna do with that money. That's all I'm saying is,
And I
if
agree
it's
with
in the
that.
budget, you have to account for it. It's a great problem to have, but it's not something you can then say, once you bring it into the village, which I agree with your advice in that regard. But once you do bring it in, you have to decide as a budget how that money's gonna be spent. So this February, it sounds to me you have to do the sponsorship to make music in the park work, right? I mean, it's fundamentally gonna have to happen. You're gonna have to raise sponsorships.
No.
No?
No.
Well,
We've always put a budget together that
We
covers,
just paid it ourselves.
Okay,
Well, this helped us offset the cost.
right.
and what Sam wanted to do was things that was outside what we
Okay, so-
provided in the
Yeah,
budget
we're not-
So
amount.
that being said, though, still, you should account for what those sponsorship revenue is gonna be. You have to. You have to say, what do we reasonably expect is going to come in? And then, it's very simple. I'm assuming, Sam, because of the banners, you're telling these people you're gonna be part of this event, this summer event. Makes sense. I mean, that's what you're selling to them. So that comes in. Most communities I know that do these use that to first and foremost offset the cost of that program. Why wouldn't you do that? That's what you're trying to sell, is funding this program, make it viable. After that, like I said, then it's council with consultation with Tim and Sam, long-term, as Lyle said, what do we do with that money after that? If you can even offset all the costs. Sponsorships go up and down. When businesses are struggling, good luck trying to get sponsorship. It does not happen. It's one of the hardest things you can do is to continually keep sponsorships alive. I mean, I know cities that have hired people to go out and find those sponsors, hired marketing firms. It's not easy. So I don't want to give the impression, I know that we're always going to have that kind of revenue coming in because it may not happen. But I think once you put it in the budget, you're going to have this discussion. Tonight's probably not the night to resolve it.
It's a budget meeting now.
It's a budget meeting issue. But before she goes out and tries to collect these, I think you need to talk that through as part of the budget process.
When do you start having those conversations, Sam?
In the spring.
In the spring. So we have our budget finalized. So would you mind coming in when we discuss the parks budget?
No, but I have to know when that is.
Right, well, we'll let you know. Harry will let you know.
Or meet with your park commissioner, so they're on board with what you're.
Right.
Oh, yeah, we have been doing that. I didn't realize
Yeah.
that the council didn't know because Harry had been at the meetings. I
Well,
mean,
maybe if
he
you're
had-
here, it'll.
I went to when you were having that 4th of July concert, I was up in Standish, and I went to their concert in the park. And there, the sponsor paid for the band that night. They sponsored the band that night. Whatever that band got, I don't know how much it was, but they paid for that. And although I didn't know what our sponsors paid, I thought it was put up to offset the program.
It was. I talked to Romeo when I first started doing this because they had sponsors for theirs, and they would. It was a lot more money, and they have a whole Parks and Rec staff that does all this stuff. So.
Oh yeah, that's a very
I mean,
big
it's always
Parks
been
and
kind of limited, but by how much I can do.
Romeo's a whole different thing. They got a whole building.
They were $600, and they hired the band, and they got a banner, and they got their name in the little brochure they did, and it's like I don't have that kind of.
Right.
I don't have program. I don't have any of that stuff. I can't do that. So I didn't even try anything until Tim offered to help, and then I've got there's 2 of us, so can do twice as much. Good, that's great. But our intention never was to pay for the concerts. It was to pay for the other stuff that the village couldn't provide. That was always the intention.
And that eventually can be the case, but you got to go through the budget because the money's coming in. It's got to be,
But if we do it as a sponsorship, then it can't be earmarked. If they're donations, then it can. Right? It's a different process, and then it can be earmarked for.
Right, but you can't put their name on a sign then.
Right. Well.
That's.
Right. I just
I
want
mean,
to
the council can acknowledge.
No, you need a checkpoint.
But to me, you come in at budget and say, I anticipate $2,000 in sponsor money. Please,
I thought we were
please
doing
consider
advertising
allowing me to
and
spend
everything.
$2,000 on
All
these park
far
improvements.
That'll work.
That's all you gotta do.
Okay.
You
My
gotta remember
opinion.
too, there's only so many businesses in this town, there's in this area that will want to sponsor at some point.
Well,
you're
they
gonna-
didn't when I first started this. I went to
Yeah.
everybody,
I know.
and nobody wanted to do anything. It's,
Right.
My first pitch was, there's no money involved. Just come, pass out coupons. I can give you some FaceTime with the audience. We get enough people.
Yeah,
you can
do.
talk to them. Coupons. What? First one back to the restaurant gets a free whatever. No takers. Now that it's 7 or 8 years later, and I have an audience of 100 people or so every week, that's a different story. Now they're
Interesting.
yeah.
And I guess it would be important for us to give you some directions to what we want, which I don't think we've done evidently. Because we're thinking that we're getting some of the programs paid for, and you're thinking this money is to be used
Exactly.
for whatever we come up with.
Right.
We may, sometimes you don't want to take money that's earmarked from somebody. We thought a lot about the ACTA money, but just because we didn't know that we really wanted to build a pavilion, but as it was a great idea.
Yeah.
If anybody, I'll pick that up later. If anybody has their budget handy, if you look on the park budget, on the revenue, it says the math is not calculated in the park budget because you don't know how much revenue you're going to bring in from donations. And it's for camera and installation.
I
So
thought it was
don't-
a capital expenditure that Harry was looking at purchasing out of the parks.
There's no money in there for either the capital,
Right, right,
or it would be under there. You only have $250 in capital revenue for that.
right. Well, like we do a police car, we take out a
So-
certain amount every time. I thought that that was his money he was taking out to build up enough for the camera. The only thing, I was not trying to cause a bunch of problems. I just wanted Sam to give Sam the opportunity to bring up the rest of council as to what was going on, because I was in the dark and I wasn't sure if everyone else on council was or not.
Right,
So
well,
I
it's clear
only-
we have a communication thing.
Correct, right.
Yeah.
So I appreciate all your hard work. We know you're doing a fantastic job. We do appreciate it. I just wanted the chance for you to bring the rest of council up to speed as to what you were looking for.
Okay.
So we'll be having a lot more communication. Well, Mr. Wallach will be having a lot more communication for the budget
You're
time.
gonna be invited to the meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, it's,
Absolutely.
that'd be great. It's,
If you'd like to bring Tim or Tom.
Jim, yeah, he's sick
Do
tonight,
so.
or he would have been here.
Yeah, it's an open workshop. So but we'll let you know in the parks when we plan on doing the parks. So that way
More than welcome.
we're all on the same page for next year.
Right.
Exactly, that's sweet.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for coming out,
Thank
Sam.
you. Yeah,
I
you're
really
welcome.
appreciate it.
You're
You do a
welcome.
real good job, thank you.
Yes. Okay, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is letter C, park bench bids. Are there any public comments? Any public comments? Hearing none, village clerk, this is your agenda item.
Well, as everybody is aware, we discussed it at the last meeting. I put the public notice on the website. I put it in our window, Channel 6 advertised it, that we had the 5 benches, the old benches, since we've been talking about benches, the benches that we replaced, are up for sale, bid, whatever, however you want to put it. I did get one person who sent me an email, and she would like one. She doesn't want them all. She has specifically, I think, asked for the one that sat in front of Papa's. She is the one that she wants for sure.
That's the one I wanted.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know, I called a bit to Michelle
Today.
today.
Yeah.
I called it though, I didn't write it.
Yeah. Anyway, she said we are interested in obtaining one of your used park benches. We would be willing to pay $10 for the bench. Please let me know if it's accepted and then how to proceed. Since we only got one, I mean, in the bid, we had up to 5
Tell them what
available.
my bid was to you.
Your bid was for the other 4.
Whatever somebody else didn't
Did you
want.
say $50?
15.
$15? You sure you didn't say 50?
I'm positive.
Yeah, all right.
But I said,
But my question to council is though, I only received one bid. This was the woman that initiated the whole process because she called the office. Because I haven't gotten any more before, I mean, I don't mean to belittle this because you guys, we're all residents here too, but I don't know if you want to leave this open for another couple weeks for the public before we bid on it, or if you want to have, you know, I mean, Dave, if you want to put something in
no,
writing.
I'll give you a writing, but, you
Yeah.
know,
I just don't know how you want to handle it, because we did do the 2 weeks. You know, like I said, this woman responded because she was the one that initiated it all.
the
So,
only thing is, now everybody knows what she bid and what I bid.
Yeah,
And I wouldn't
because
take
you
the one
forced
she
it
bid
out
on,
of me.
I'd take the other, what's left. Now the next people know what to bid.
and maybe no one, you know, it's not like I've had a flood of phone calls saying, give me those benches, so. So the motion tonight is just to accept her bid for $10.
Why can't we accept Dave's for 50?
That's up to council, I didn't know, because that was.
Because I called it in, I didn't write it
He
in.
did.
But I did call it in and she did have a number.
He did, he called me today, and he did not ask what this bid was.
You
just
said
so
there was
everybody
5
knows.
benches.
I believe we said 5, right, Joe? There's 4.
There's 4 or 5, I think one might be in very dire disrepair.
Yeah.
Well, then, if there's 4, then I'd only want to bid for 3 and let that woman have the other one.
So you want a total of 3 benches?
Yeah.
You'll take the balance of what's not bid.
Yeah.
If the
like,
other one isn't, if maybe it's repaired it by now. I
If,
mean, I
if
don't
that's
know.
good, then I would take 4 and give that lady 5, the 5th one.
Yeah.
Or if there's 4,
Can
give
I
that lady.
suggest, though, that she get the first choice on her bench?
Sure, I don't
since
care.
she
That's
was-
fine with me.
Since she followed the rules and sent in a written.
I didn't know what your rules were.
It's
We're
in
gonna
the
say-
public notice.
I didn't read the public notice, I just knew what was coming up.
I think we better move on before it gets
Yeah,
a whole.
I would consider them all sold then, correct?
That's up to council, I didn't know.
No, if you guys don't think that's fine and good, that's fine.
Well, people have had 2 weeks to get
They
their
have,
bids in.
they have had
So,
2 weeks.
They
I
were
mean,
given a timeline.
You want to put it in
Right.
writing,
That's
Dave, and
expired.
then we'll accept it at the next meeting?
or we can just accept
I
it
can
in
do
this
that.
one. It's-
Yeah.
Jeff, is there a reason why we can't accept his verbal?
Well, my only thing would be, what did you ask the other lady to do?
I asked her to put, and the public notice says in writing.
Yeah, you busy?
Yeah.
Hey, I
Dave,
can,
go
I
ahead.
got a pen if you like.
Could you write it for him?
Costs $150.
Put it in attorney jumbo?
Don't do it.
I shouldn't have bid so much.
Okay,
Yeah.
so,
Well, we're already accepting it, so that's too bad.
You got cheaper.
So we'll put in,
and just add at the end, and David Conan in the amount,
perfect.
in the amount of $15
Each.
for the,
Here, $15
each,
yeah. Can you write each for each bench
the
Yeah.
remaining.
for a total of 4?
No, what I'm putting in there is just add at the end, and David Conan in the amount of $15 each for the remaining, because I don't know if there's 4 or 3.
Perfect.
Is that okay, Jeff?
Yeah, I think it's more of a unit price than a total
Yeah.
price.
Okay, ready?
Yep.
Go ahead.
Madam President, I'll resolve to accept the bid from Sharon, the last name?
Mary, I'm not sure how to say it.
Resolve to accept the bid from Sharon Mayari in the amount of $10 for one of the old park benches, and David Cohen for the bid of $15 each of the remaining benches.
For the remaining.
For the remaining
Not 10
benches.
of them.
Motion by Mr. Ballard, is there a second?
Support.
Support by Mr. Clark. Any other discussion?
Yeah, just, mine's for not to exceed 4 benches.
Yeah, there's 80 of them back there, Dave, awesome.
Christmas is coming up, Dave.
Yeah, everybody gets a
That'll go
bench.
buy a whole bunch at $5 a piece and turn them flip them at 15.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried.
And I'll,
Okay, you'll
I will
abstain.
I will
Mr.
contact,
Cronin abstained.
oh, you abstain. I am going to contact, Sharon tomorrow and let her know, and then I will let her have first dibs, and then you get the balance.
Okay. Any other
Tell Ed to
discussion?
bring them over.
No, they're at the DP down there,
Dave,
gonna
I
make
want
him
to see
move
those
those
on a yard
benches.
sale for $30 a piece next
Yeah.
summer.
Yeah.
Okay, next agenda item, to set a public hearing to consider adoption of an ordinance amending the village code to update the village's marijuana and drug paraphernalia restrictions to conform with state law. Are there any public comments? Any public comments? Hearing none? Chief Smith, this is your agenda item.
We had a little incident. And it sounds like marijuana should be fun. I didn't have anything neat to bring you guys like the fireman but we had a little incident where the medical marijuana law restricts the transportation of marijuana. So without getting into either the pros or the cons of it, there is a state law that identifies the transportation of your marijuana. This subject was not conforming to the state law. We could not use our local prosecutor in order to do that. We had to go to the state law prosecutor. Obviously, every time we go to the state law prosecutor, that adds us, 3-4 hours of additional time to send, the officer down on his off day. And then it also costs us on the other end of it, because when the state law prosecutor prosecutes it, then the whatever fines or costs, if there are fines and costs derived, those do not come back to the village, not with the same degree as when Mr. Bohorski's office prosecutes it. So when this problem arose, then the obvious thing to do, what seems to be the obvious thing to do, would be to adopt an ordinance that would allow us to prosecute the law effectively, both time-wise and monetarily, so that we can do our job. So I'm asking that we consider adopting an ordinance that allows us to enforce the law as the state law states.
And I would just add, Howard summarized it very well, but the other thing we're doing is the marijuana laws have undergone some revisions in terms of definitions about paraphernalia. So we're taking the opportunity, should council ask us to proceed, we've taken the opportunity to update those definitions so we're current with state law. As these things change, it's you gotta always go back and update. So this gives us another benefit of updating our laws so they match what the state has on their books. So that's it.
Okay, need to set a public hearing. That's gonna be your first meeting.
Madam President, I'll resolve to set a public hearing on Monday, November 24th, 2014 at 7 p.m. on the proposed ordinance amending section 99.1-2 and 99.1-3 of Chapter 99.1 of the Village Code to update the village's marijuana and drug paraphernalia regulations to conform to state law and authorize the clerk to publish notice of the public hearing in the Armada Times.
Motion by Mr. Ballard, is there a second?
Forward.
Support by Mr. Wallach. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried. We are now under upcoming agenda items. We will be moving new business letter B. Correct, Mr. Ballard?
Correct.
Okay, any other upcoming agenda items anyone would like to add?
Public hearing.
Okay. Anything else? Hearing none? Any other citizen comments? Any other citizen comments? Hearing none? Council comments? Clerk Polis.
I'm going to swear in our newly elected officials. I was sworn in last week by the township clerk, so I'm good to go for another 2 years. So, with that being said, Joe, do you want to start?
Sure.
Okay. We sometimes do this at council, in our office, sometimes we do it at meetings. We're gonna do it in a meeting this time, so let me find you. Ready? I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and that I will faithfully perform the duties
and that I will faithfully perform the duties
of the office of treasurer
of the office of treasurer
in and for the village of Armada,
in and for the village of Armada,
county of Macomb,
county of Macomb,
and state of
state of
Michigan,
Michigan,
according to the best of my
according to the
ability.
best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Mr. Wallach, would you like to stand up? Our newly elected.
Sherry's the happiest person.
Ready? I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this
and the
state,
Constitution of this state,
and that I will faithfully perform the duties
and I will faithfully perform the duties
of the office of President
of the office of President
in and for the village of Armada,
in and for the village of Armada,
county of Macomb,
county of Macomb,
and state of Michigan,
state of Michigan,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
I'll have you guys sign after. Now, if Sherry and Dave and Harry would all stand up, I'm going to swear you guys in all at once. Okay, you guys ready? Up with your hand there, Mr. Cohen. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States of America
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and that I will faithfully perform the duties
and I will faithfully perform the duties
of the office of trustee
of the office of trustee
in and for the village of Armada,
in and for the village of Armada,
county of Macomb,
county of Macomb,
and state of Michigan,
and state of Michigan,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God. Okay. Okay, any other council comments? I would like to say thank you to everyone for my 4 years of being president. I am going to leave it over to Mr. Wallach, and know we are in good hands. And if anyone has any other questions for me or anything, I'm still around, so you can still ask me questions, but I wanted to give you the utmost respect and thank you for helping me through these 4 years. I do appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. Any other council comments?
Sherry, on behalf of myself, I'd like to say thank you very much for running as our president. It was a pleasure serving with you, even though we don't see eye to eye, but I never do as any president. It's been a pleasure serving with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Here, here.
Any other council comments?
I'd like to thank everybody that voted and to work with the new council. It'd be a good challenge. We've had a lot of good challenges.
Yeah.
So I know our work is always cut out for us, and we have proven it in the past, and we will do it again for our community. So thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Wallach. Any other council comments? No? Any community events?
Wow, we don't have concerts in the park. It's like
Yeah.
Can we do a winter jam thing?
The fire department will flood that,
Yeah.
we're gonna have hockey games.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Okay, we have no closed session tonight. The time is now 8:06. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So
Mr. Wallach, this is one of your last times to adjourn.
Oh, what are you gonna do?
Is there a second?
Support.
I was gonna say, Mr. Ballard. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.